Hello and welcome to Watch Releases Recap for the week of August 23rd until August the 30th. Let's begin with Oris and their new and updated Aquis Chronograph. Seems like Oris is taking 2024 to update their existing models to make them a little bit more streamlined, slimmer, smaller, kind of exactly what the modern buyers are asking for. Because they already have a chrono version of this watch, but that version was way too big, 45.5 millimeters in case diameter. This new version is slimmer and smaller. Now it comes in a 43.5 millimeter case diameter. Yes, still pretty big, but this is a diver style chrono, and usually these types of watches are larger. This watch also has a 51 millimeter lug-to-lug distance. It's made out of stainless steel and it is on the stainless steel bracelet. This is the newest version of the bracelet, I believe, that has a bit more of an aggressive taper and a slightly different case design to the watch itself. Again, slightly slimmer, slightly better ergonomics, so it sits better on your wrist. But you still have to have some pretty big wrists to pull off wearing something like this. Now, as far as the movement, that has not been changed. This one is still powered by the Oris 771, which is essentially a modified Sellita SW510. It's an automatic chronograph movement beating at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It has 27 joules and 62 hours of power reserve. This colorway that they introduced has existed already, but that was on a limited edition and it was slightly different. This new shade of blue actually looks very attractive and the watch still features 300 meters of water resistance. Now, this is not a limited edition, it's part of the standard catalog, and these watches are priced at 4,400 Swiss francs, so that's about 5,200 USD. But that's not the only blue chrono we got this week. There's also the new Tudor Black Bay Chrono Boutique Edition. So here's the thing, I'm kind of two minds about this watch. On one hand, I really do like it. I think the shade of blue chosen here works really well with the sort of reverse panda design. That all looks very attractive. The pops of red color on the tips of the seconds hand, as well as for the font of water resistance rating, that looks pretty good. Overall, these watches have always been very attractive, and especially having this one on their new sort of Jubilee 5-link bracelet, that looks really good. But my problem with this watch is sort of twofold, and again, it's not a real problem. It's just, as watch enthusiasts, we like to complain about things. Number one, the dimensions are still the same, so this is quite a large watch. 41 millimeter diameter, 14.2 millimeters in case height, and it's about 52 millimeters from one lug to another. Now, those dimensions on paper don't sound like this is a giant watch, because it's not. But for some reason, these Black Bay chronos do wear much thicker, so I wish Tudor would address the thickness of this watch a little bit, but it does come with 200 meters of water resistance. So this small gripe is not really a gripe. Again, I just wish that they shrunk this watch slightly. The other quote-unquote problem that I have with this watch is the fact that we just got a special edition with the pink dial earlier this year. Now we have another special edition. This one is boutique exclusive, but nevertheless, it's a special edition for the catalog in blue. I'm just afraid that Tudor is releasing too many watches in too many different variations too quickly, and it's gonna tire out the market because they don't want to repeat the mistakes of Grand Seiko. By the way, there is a Grand Seiko release that we're going to talk about later in this video. And as far as the movement of this watch is the same as the standard chrono that was released years ago, is the caliber MT5813, which is based on Breitling B01. It's a COSC certified movement beating at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It has 41 joules and 70 hours of power reserve. And as I mentioned, this is a special edition, not a limited edition. So from my understanding, these will only be sold at Tudor boutiques. And these watches are priced at 5,300 Swiss francs. That's about 6,200 USD. I think that's the same price as the standard editions. The new dial colors for Longines Legend Diver 39mm. I don't know what it is about Longines releases lately, but I've been loving every single one of them, including this release. So a little bit of background about what exactly this model is. It came out a few years ago in a 42mm case diameter. That was a bit too large for a lot of people because these watches do tend to wear larger. There isn't too much bezel. I mean, there is a bezel, but the bezel is internally rotating, which means that it looks like it's all dial and it makes the watch wear larger on the wrist. Then I believe last year they released a 39mm version, which I covered on the show, and I really loved that release. Now, in addition to the two colors that were originally released last year, the blue dial and the black dial, we got three other versions. There's the green one, red one, and gray. Everything else about the watch stayed exactly the same. It's still made out of stainless steel. It features 39mm case diameter, only 12.7mm in case height, which is very impressive, especially with that internally rotating bezel, and it's about 47mm one lug to another. Now these watches still come with 300 meters of water resistance, and they're still powered by the caliber L888.6, which is essentially a modified ETA movement, beating at 25,200 vibrations per hour, in other words 3.5 Hertz. They have 21 joules and 72 hours of power reserve. I think the retro look of this watch is nicely complemented with those Beats of Rice bracelets, and the new colors overall work really well with the design. As far as the pricing goes, they're priced at €3,650, which I believe is exactly the same price as the ones released last year. Orient Bombino 38 with 3 new dial colors. Orient Bambino is one of these legendary watches. A lot of watch collectors have started their collections having one of these watches in a collection. It's the first serious watch for a lot of collectors, and it holds a very dear place in a lot of collectors' hearts, including my own. I did own one of these watches. There is an old review somewhere on the channel. It's very cringy, I gotta warn you, but I do like these watches. Over the years, there were a few different dial versions, a few different versions of this watch period, and a few different sizes. This time, 2024, there are 3 new dial colors for the 38mm version, which I think is the best version of Orient Bombino. The rest of the case is also well proportioned. They're about 12.5mm in case height and about 44mm lug-to-lug distance. Now these ones don't feature a sapphire crystal. They do come with a mineral crystal, which is a bit of a downside because around €330, which is almost $400, you would expect a sapphire crystal. I believe that back in a day, and back in a day in watch terms, I'm talking about maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when I was just starting out on YouTube, they offered great value proposition because there weren't that many micro brands. Now in 2024, there's so much competition in this sort of under $500 price category that offering a brand new watch without a sapphire crystal is a big no-no. I think Orient kind of read the market wrong on this one, but everything else about the watch I think is still very attractive. I like the new color combinations. My favorite is probably this sort of green one, although the pink and the purple ones also look very attractive. I think these watches would look great with a dress shirt and a suit. Now these bracelets are very jangly and ratchety. It's exactly what you would expect from the entry-level Japanese watch. If it were me, I would probably change the bracelet for a leather strap. Just kind of expect that once you buy one of these watches. Now they're still automatic, powered by the caliber F6724, which is a very popular calendar that Orient uses in their introductory level watches. It beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour. It has 22 joules and about 40 hours of power reserve. As far as the price and availability, these watches will not be a limited edition. They're part of the standard collection, and they're priced at €330, which is about what, $385. So not a very cheap watch, but sort of affordable in the landscape of 2024 releases. The new Breitling collection for 140th anniversary. In my opinion, in the last few years, Breitling has been putting itself on the right track once again. For a while there, they sort of seemed to lose their way, but over the last few years, they had some really nice releases, including this new collection. Now, what makes this collection special is the fact that Breitling has finally developed their new in-house perpetual calendar movement. These movements are extremely difficult to develop, so there is no surprise that it took Breitling so long. They're very expensive, they're very R&D intensive, but finally here we are, 2024 140th anniversary of Breitling watches. There are 3 different models to choose from, and they all feature exactly the same movement. I think Breitling did it right here by choosing 3 of their most popular lines of watches. We have the Premier line, which is a bit of a dressy watch. There's also the Navy Timer, which is a very sort of tool watch. and of course the ties with aviation cannot be denied. And then you also have the Chronomat, which is probably their most popular line of watches, at least is the line of watches that has the most variations. All cases are made out of 18 karat gold, and all of them feature, as I said, exactly the same movement. Is the new caliber B19, which is a perpetual calendar chronograph movement with 96 hours of power reserve. It beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and it has 374 individual components. The rotor is made out of 22 karat gold, and overall I think I like all of these versions. My favorite is probably the Navy timer. I think that looks very sharp with the gold accents and the moon phase at the 12 o'clock position, but all of them kind of work for me. I think they're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but for me it works. As far as the case sizes go, they're kind of similar. They're about 1 millimeter away from each other. The smallest one is the Premier. This is their dressy line of watches. It features a 42 millimeter case diameter and 15.5 millimeters in case height. In fact, they're all exactly the same in terms of case height. This watch is also about 50 millimeters lug to lug distance. Then the second largest is the Navy timer. This model is 43 millimeters in case diameter, and it's about 49 millimeters lug to lug distance. So this actually might wear about the same, because even though it has a larger diameter, the lug to lug distance is smaller. And as I mentioned, it has exactly the same case height, about 15.5 millimeters. Lastly, you have the Chronomat, which is their sports version of this watch. And this one features a 44 millimeter case diameter, and it's about 53.5 millimeters lug to lug distance. So clearly this is the largest one out of the bunch, but it's still roughly about 15.5 millimeters in case height. And something very unique that I found about this collection is that all three models, even though they're quite different, are priced at exactly the same price point. They're all priced at 59,000 USD. Kind of strange that they didn't go for 60. 59 seems like a better deal. And this is a limited collection to 140 pieces for each watch. I'm excited for the future of Breitling. I'm excited to see this caliber make its way into stainless steel watches eventually, maybe next year, maybe the year after. And hopefully this price tag will come down to those mid 20s, maybe low 30s. I think that would be pretty sick, having a perpetual calendar chronograph movement in that price range. There aren't too many options. The new Grand Seiko reference SBGY035 and SBGA499. Remember earlier in this video when I was talking about Tudor and me being sort of worried about them oversaturating their Black Bay line of watches? Well, I feel like that's exactly what's happening with Grand Seiko and their spring drive models. I am a watch enthusiast. I make these videos every week, and it's difficult for me to keep track of all these releases. When I saw this release posted on various publications, I was trying to figure out, have I already covered this one? Is this a new one? It's just pretty difficult to track how many special releases there are. But this is a new release for 2024. So let's talk about it. There are two new models, both powered by the Grand Seiko Spring Drive movement. One manual wind, one automatic. The automatic one is the one that features a power reserve indicator on the dial. I know a lot of people are not happy about that, but I think on this watch it looks all right. And both of these models are limited edition. The power indicator one is limited to 700 pieces. This sort of dressier one is limited to 1,300 pieces. The dress model version of this watch comes on the leather strap. It has a 38.5 millimeter case diameter. It's about 10.2 millimeters in case height, and it has 30 meters of water resistance. These ones are powered by the in-house caliber 9R31 hand-wound spring drive movement that has 72 hours of power reserve, and it's pointless to talk about beats per hour rate because they have absolutely smooth gliding hand. The other version is the sportier version. That one is also made out of stainless steel. It features a 40 millimeter case diameter. It's about 13 millimeters case height, 12.8 to be exact. And it has 100 meters of water resistance. So clearly this is the sportier version out of the two. Now this one is powered by the caliber 9R65 automatic movement with a date complication, that power reserve indicator on the dial, and also 72 hours of power reserve. As far as the dial colors, clearly they're inspired by the fall. There's a story about some mountains somewhere in Japan and the way the sun reflects on the leaves, the whole story. You know how Grand Seiko does it, but I can see what they're going for here, and I think overall it looks very attractive. I really like how these dials look. I prefer the dressier version because I like the texture on the dial as opposed to the all glossy flat look for the sporty version, but both of them are quite attractive. Now, as far as the prices go, the dressier version is the more expensive one out of the two. It's priced at 9,200 euro. The other version is priced at 6,300 euro, and as I mentioned, they're both limited editions. The new H. Moser and Studio Underdog Passion Fruit watches. Personally, I'm super impressed with what Studio Underdog is doing in the watch industry, because I believe this is only their third release ever, and now they're collaborating with a horology powerhouse like H. Moser. Now, of course, it's not a mainstream brand, it's an independent company, but nevertheless, it's a known name with a very sort of passionate following. And having such a young watch company like Studio Underdog develop its own design language to the point where it's collaborating with big watch companies and it still has its own flavor. So this collaboration is actually very interesting. I think it's more H. Moser than it is Studio Underdog, but I think both brands are winning, but who's winning the most are us watch enthusiasts. If you've been following the watch industry, you know that H. Moser watches usually don't feature any logos on the dial, and both of these watches don't have any logos. One is clearly very Studio Underdog, that's the one that's the chronograph. It's actually a mono pusher chronograph powered by the caliber Sellita SW510M. M stands for manual wind. This is a high beat movement, beating at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and it has 63 hours of power reserve. The other watch, even though it looks very similar, is in a completely different league because that's a perpetual calendar powered by the caliber HMC 800, which is an in-house caliber beating at 18,000 vibrations per hour, and it has a 7-day power reserve. I found particularly interesting the fact that you can only buy these watches as a pair. You cannot buy them individually. They're limited to 100 pieces and the price tag is 59,000 Swiss francs. Now, of course, majority of that value comes from the H. Moser with their perpetual calendar movement, as opposed to the Studio Underdog and their Sellita-based movement. But nevertheless, it's kind of a cool collaboration between two independent watch brands. I think what set all of this in motion is the Swatch Omega collaboration. You have this sort of bigger, more high-end company collaborating with a smaller, sort of more affordable watch company. Now, of course, the difference being that the Swatch and the Omega are part of the same group, the Swatch group. These are two independent watch companies collaborating, but nevertheless, this is a very cool collaboration between two companies that have very strong identity and very strong design language. And for whatever reason, this collaboration in my mind makes sense and it's cool to see. And I think more watch companies will follow suit. We'll probably see more of these types of collaborations in the future. And that's it for this week's watch releases. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought about this week's releases. I always enjoy reading your comments. Thanks for watching this video all the way until the end, and we'll see you next time. Bye.